Captain Elias Thorne stood on the bridge of the starship Endeavor, his eyes scanning the endless stars before him. The Enderic system had always been a mystery, a distant set of planets that no human had explored. Now humanity's first peaceful mission to make contact with intelligent life had finally reached its destination. "Captain," Lieutenant Mira said, pointing to the main view screen, "we're receiving a signal from a massive structure in orbit around Anderix Prime. It's enormous." Elias leaned forward, studying the holographic image. The structure was unlike anything he had ever seen. It glimmered with strange energy, with towers that seemed to defy gravity and walls that shifted colors like liquid glass. "Prepare the landing party," Elias said. "We're going down." As the Endeavor descended through Anderix Prime's atmosphere, the crew could see that the planet itself was covered in cities that shimmered under the twin suns. Flying vehicles moved between the towers, and strange beings of all shapes and sizes moved gracefully along suspended walkways. Yet despite the alien beauty, there was an undeniable sense of order and control. When the ship touched down, a group of aliens in flowing robes approached. Their skin shimmered in colors Elias had no names for, and their eyes glowed faintly with intelligence. At their head was a being taller than any human, regal and commanding. She moved with elegance, and everything about her radiated power. "I am Queen Zerelia of the Anderixian Empire," she said, her voice calm but filled with authority. "You are Captain Elias Thorne of the human species. Welcome to our world." Elias stepped forward, bowing slightly as a sign of respect. "Your Majesty, we come in peace. We seek friendship and knowledge." The Queen's eyes glimmered as if she had expected this. Peace, knowledge. And yet humans are known for their courage as well. "Come, let me show you the wonders of my empire." She led them through a massive palace filled with halls that stretched endlessly, their walls shimmering with flowing light. Creatures of all kinds moved gracefully, performing tasks without question. Some cleaned the floors. Others tended to gardens that floated in midair. The humans noticed that all the workers were highly skilled, and yet they moved with a strange, almost hypnotic obedience. "Are they free?" Mira whispered to Elias. "They look different," Elias murmured. Something about the way the beings moved made him uneasy. There was perfection, yes, but it lacked joy. It was controlled. Queen Zerelia noticed his glance. "You have a sharp eye, Captain. Many see only the beauty, not the structure behind it. My people value order, loyalty, and perfection above all. It is what has kept our empire strong for centuries." The humans nodded politely, though Elias felt a subtle tension growing in the air. There was power here, yes, but it came with a cost. As they entered the throne room, Elias could hardly believe his eyes. The room was immense, a dome of transparent energy that revealed the stars outside. At the center, Queen Zerelia sat on a throne that seemed to float above the floor. Around her were beings she had chosen as her closest attendants. They were all stunning in appearance and highly skilled in their tasks, yet they moved with quiet obedience, never speaking unless spoken to. "You have come far," Zerelia said, her voice smooth and confident. "And now you face a choice. You may accept a gift from me, one that few outsiders have ever been offered." Elias exchanged a quick glance with Mira. "A gift?" he asked cautiously. The Queen smiled. "My empire values loyalty, and I reward those who impress me. I offer you my finest attendants. They are skilled, beautiful, and loyal. They will serve you and grant you prestige among your people." The humans froze. It was clear what she meant, and it was not something they could accept lightly. They had traveled across the galaxy to learn, not to exploit others. Elias took a deep breath. "Your Majesty, we are honored by your generosity, but we do not take gifts that cost the freedom of others. Humans value respect, not control. We cannot accept." For a moment, the throne room was silent. Even the attendants stopped their movements. The Queen's eyes widened slightly, not with anger, but with surprise. She had offered this gift countless times before, and no one had ever refused. "Most species would jump at the chance," she said, her voice calm but curious. "Why do you refuse?" Elias stepped forward, his gaze steady. "Because true strength is not in owning others. It is in wisdom, courage, and respect. We hope to learn from you, not take from you." There was a flicker of admiration in the Queen's eyes. "Humans, your courage is remarkable. Few can resist temptation, especially when it comes with power." Mira whispered to Elias, "Captain, this could be dangerous." She might see it as an insult. Elias shook his head. "No, Mira, this is our way. We cannot compromise our values." The queen leaned back on her throne, studying him carefully. For a moment, the air seemed heavier, as if the room itself was testing the human captain. Then she smiled slowly, a smile that carried both challenge and curiosity. "You have chosen the harder path," she said. "I respect that. Perhaps there is more to your species than I imagined." Elias allowed himself a small sigh of relief. The tension in the room eased slightly, though he knew the test was far from over. They were in the court of the most powerful being in this part of the galaxy, and every move would be watched and judged. The queen gestured to a large window, showing the sprawling city beyond. "Look at my empire, Captain. Every building, every citizen, every decision is guided by strength and order. But perhaps there is something we can learn from you as well." Elias followed her gaze. The city below was beautiful, efficient, and seemingly perfect. Yet, in its perfection, he sensed something missing: freedom, spontaneity, the messy but vibrant qualities that made life worth living. "Your empire is incredible," he said honestly, "but even the strongest systems need compassion and choice. That is what humans bring." The queen's eyes narrowed slightly, not in anger, but in thought. Elias realized that he had done more than refuse her gift. He had challenged her perspective, gently but firmly. "Perhaps this is the beginning of an interesting journey," Zerelia said finally. "You have shown courage, Captain Elias. I will watch you closely. Let us see what humans can truly offer." As the humans were escorted back to their quarters, Elias felt a mix of relief and anticipation. The test was only the beginning. They were far from home, in an alien empire that valued power above all. And yet Elias knew that humans had something no empire could ever replicate: integrity, courage, and the drive to do what was right. "Captain," Mira said quietly, "you think she'll respect us after this?" Elias smiled faintly. "I think she's already curious. And curiosity can lead to respect. That's our first victory, Mira. But the real challenge is yet to come." Outside, the twin suns of Andarix Prime bathed the palace in golden light. The humans had arrived as outsiders, but Elias knew they would leave a mark, one built not on power or fear, but on the strength of their character. And somewhere in the shadows of the throne room, Queen Zerelia was already planning her next move. Intrigued by the species that refused what everyone else desired most, the journey had begun, and the galaxy was about to witness something extraordinary. The courage of humanity standing tall against the most powerful empire it had ever encountered. The next morning, the humans were escorted back to the throne room. The grandeur of the palace had not lost its effect on them. Towering walls shimmered with light, and floating gardens filled the air with a soft, colorful glow. The attendants moved silently around the room, tending to tasks with perfection. Every detail radiated order, elegance, and discipline. Queen Zerelia sat on her throne, waiting. Her presence was calm, yet her gaze pierced through Elias and his crew. She did not speak immediately. Instead, she studied them, as if weighing their worth in a silent balance. "Captain Elias," she said at last, "I admire your courage in refusing my gift yesterday. Many would have taken it without hesitation, but courage alone does not define a species. Morality, intelligence, and wisdom are also tested in times of temptation." Elias straightened. "We believe that morality is the foundation of strength, Your Majesty. Respect and fairness make a society strong, not fear or control." The Queen's eyes gleamed. "Perhaps, but you have not yet faced the true test. Power and influence are never offered without a price." With a graceful gesture, she summoned a group of her closest attendants. They were stunning in appearance, each one highly skilled in a specific art: diplomacy, science, strategy, and communication. Their movements were precise, their presence commanding. "These are my finest," the Queen said, her voice calm yet powerful. "They are skilled, loyal, and devoted. Any leader would gain prestige and advantage by having them at their side. I offer them to you." Elias felt a weight in the room. The offer was clear. Accepting the attendants would bring immense power, wealth, and respect, not just among humans, but in the eyes of the entire Andarixian Empire. Yet it came at the cost of their freedom, Mira whispered under her breath. "Captain, this is serious. Accepting them could make us influential. Rejecting them could make us enemies." Elias shook his head. "We did not come here to gain power over others. That is not what humans do. We lead by example, not by force or ownership." The Queen's gaze sharpened. You understand the risk of refusal. Few species can resist temptation, and fewer still can speak with such conviction. Your values are unusual, Captain. The throne room was quiet. Even the flowing lights in the walls seemed to dim as if waiting. Captain Elias Thorne, standing tall, knew that this moment would define not only the human's place in the Andarixian Empire, but perhaps the respect of its most powerful ruler. Queen Aurelia sat on her throne, observing Elias with a mixture of curiosity and amusement. Her attendants, who had been silent for the past few hours, watched him intently, glowing eyes filled with anticipation. None of the human's previous actions had prepared them for what she had planned next. You have shown courage and intelligence, the Queen said, her voice soft but strong. You refused my gift, solved problems beyond my people's understanding, and spoke of fairness and respect. Yet the ultimate test remains. Elias raised an eyebrow. A test beyond all of this? Your Majesty, we are ready. Humans do not shy away from challenges even when the stakes are high. The Queen smiled faintly. Most species value power more than principles. That is why they fall quickly. But humans, perhaps you are different. With a graceful gesture, she summoned a holographic display. It projected images of her attendants all lined up, their skills listed in detail. Science, diplomacy, strategy, communication, all the talents one could desire in a leader. She spoke clearly, almost like a teacher. Captain Elias, these beings are ready to serve. To lead with them is to command influence, power, and prestige across my empire. Choose wisely. Few have this opportunity, and fewer still can resist it. The humans exchanged uneasy glances. Lieutenant Mira whispered, Captain, this is bigger than yesterday. The temptation is immense. Even accepting one would make us influential beyond belief. Elias shook his head. We do not seek influence through the control of others. That is not the way humans lead. True leadership comes from respect, trust, and cooperation. Queen Aurelia's expression hardened slightly. Words are easy, Captain. Actions define character. Many have promised honor, fairness, and morality, but few have the courage to act when the opportunity is theirs. Elias felt the weight of her gaze. This was more than a challenge. It was a test of humanity itself. His crew looked at him nervously, but he could see their trust in him. This was the moment to show that humans were not just intelligent but morally strong. Your Majesty, Elias said, stepping forward, I do not need your attendance to prove the worth of my species. I will show you instead what true leadership is. The Queen tilted her head, intrigued. And how do you intend to do that, Captain? Elias pointed directly at Queen Aurelia herself. His gesture was firm, respectful, and unwavering. The room went completely silent. Even the lights seemed to pause. All eyes, human and alien, were on him. Mira gasped quietly. Captain, what are you doing? Elias took a deep breath. I point to you, Your Majesty, because the measure of strength is not in the gifts we take, but in the choices we make and the leaders we hold accountable. Power is not given by taking from others. It is shown by courage, wisdom, and responsibility. The attendants froze. Their glowing eyes widened in disbelief. No one in the history of the Andarixian Empire had ever done such a thing. Refused gifts, challenged the system, and then openly pointed at the Queen herself. Queen Aurelia's eyes narrowed. A ripple of tension ran through the throne room. She rose slowly from her floating throne, the light catching the edges of her robe like liquid metal. You dare to challenge me? She asked, her voice calm but edged with steel. Elias did not flinch. Not challenge you as a person, Your Majesty. I respect your authority, but I challenge the idea that power is measured by what we take from others. Humans believe that true strength comes from protecting freedom, inspiring courage, and earning respect, not seizing it by force or privilege. The Queen paused, considering his words. Then, for the first time, she allowed herself a small smile. Few outsiders have the audacity to speak so directly. Fewer still would point at me and demand accountability without fear. Elias met her gaze steadily. We do not fear, but we do not dominate. We lead with courage, wisdom, and principle. That is the difference, Your Majesty. That is why humans have survived, thrived, and built civilizations across planets. Not because we took, but because we chose wisely and acted with integrity. A murmur spread through the throne room. The attendants looked at one another, surprised, unsure of how to react. Some admired Elias's courage. Others were wary, for their queen had never been confronted in this way. Queen Zaralia stepped down from her throne, her robes gliding across the floor. She approached Elias slowly, her presence commanding yet not hostile. "Captain Elias," she said softly, "you are unlike any being I have encountered. Your species is audacious, clever, and morally steadfast. You do not take what is offered. You demand what is just." Elias remained calm. "We do not seek conflict, Your Majesty. We seek understanding, cooperation, and mutual respect. That is the path to true influence, one that lasts and one that benefits all." The Queen studied him closely. She realized that this human had not only refused her gifts but had also demonstrated a level of courage and moral clarity that few species possessed. It was not defiance for the sake of pride. It was defiance grounded in principle. "You have done something remarkable today," she said finally. "Not merely by refusing my gift, but by pointing out the truth in a way that none have dared. You show me that humans are capable of far more than we assumed." Elias felt a sense of relief, but he did not relax. He knew that this was only the beginning. His actions had earned respect, but they had also marked humans as a species that could not be controlled, influenced, or bought. That was a dangerous position in any empire, but one he was willing to hold. Queen Zaralia motioned for her attendants to step back. "Leave us," she said softly. "And Captain Elias, you may yet teach me the value of your way. You point at me and yet you do not act against me. That is wisdom, courage, and integrity, all in one gesture." Elias nodded. "We only seek to act rightly, Your Majesty. That is the best any being can do." As the attendants left the room, the Queen turned to him fully. Her expression was thoughtful, almost contemplative. "Captain Elias, you have made your position clear. You are not here for power nor for influence, yet you have made an impression stronger than any gift could offer. I will consider your words carefully. Perhaps humans are the example we have needed all along." Elias bowed slightly. "Thank you, Your Majesty. That is all we ask, a chance to be judged by our actions, not by the power we refuse." The Queen's eyes glimmered with respect. "You have done what many could not. Few beings in the galaxy could maintain such courage, wisdom, and moral clarity at the same time. You have set a standard not just for humans, but for all who would witness it." Mira stepped forward quietly. "Captain, the attendants, they look different now," almost relieved. "Is that possible?" Elias nodded. "Yes, Mira. They've seen the difference between coercion and respect. Even in a court like this, principles can inspire others. That is the true measure of influence." Queen Zarelia's gaze lingered on him. "Captain Elias, your defiance is not rebellion. It is guidance. You point at me, and yet you show the path forward, one of fairness, courage, and cooperation. Perhaps it is humans who can teach us what power truly means." Elias smiled faintly. "If one species can learn from another, Your Majesty, then the galaxy becomes stronger. That is our gift, our way to make a difference without taking what does not belong to us." The Queen nodded slowly. "Very well. You have passed the greatest test yet, not of skill or courage or intelligence, but of moral clarity. Few could stand where you stand and refuse temptation without hesitation. Humans are rare indeed." Outside the throne room, the twin sons of Anderix Prime shone with brilliance. Elias knew that his gesture had changed something fundamental, not just in the eyes of the Queen, but in the way humanity would be seen across the galaxy. This was more than courage. It was a declaration of human values. A single act of principle could challenge an empire and inspire respect that no threat, no wealth, and no weapon could ever earn. And somewhere deep within the palace, Queen Zaralia considered the implications. Humans were not like other species. They did not bow to power, nor did they take what was offered without thought. They acted with integrity, courage, and wisdom. Perhaps, she thought, the galaxy had underestimated them all along. For Elias and his crew, the throne room was no longer just a place of challenge. It was a proving ground. They had shown that humans were capable of standing tall, even when surrounded by the most powerful beings in the universe, and this was only the beginning. The throne room of the Anderixian palace was quieter than usual that morning. Captain Elias Thorne and his crew returned to the chamber, this time not to face a moral challenge, but to demonstrate humanity's greatest strength, ingenuity. Queen Zaralia sat on her floating throne, her eyes watching them carefully. "Captain Elias," she said, her tone calm, "you have shown courage, wisdom, and moral clarity. Now I wish to see how humans contribute when knowledge and creativity are required. Elias nodded. We are ready, Your Majesty. Humans have always solved difficult problems not through force but through thinking, collaboration, and persistence. The Queen gestured to a large holographic display that filled the center of the room. It projected the entire energy system of Enderix Prime, a vast network of power generators, transport nodes. The palace of Queen Zerelia was alive with quiet tension the morning after the humans demonstrated their ingenuity. Captain Elias Thorne and his crew had returned to their quarters to rest, but the humans knew that the real challenge had only begun. They had impressed the Queen and her court, yet the empire was vast, and not all of its leaders were pleased with the rising influence of outsiders. Elias sat with Mira and Jalen, reviewing their plans. The Queen respects us now, he said quietly. But respect is not the same as trust. Her council may see us as a threat. Mira nodded. We've shown intelligence, ethics, and courage. But some advisors may want to undermine us. They could view humans as unpredictable. Then we must act carefully, Elias said. Influence comes not from domination, but from partnership. We need to prove that humans can strengthen the empire without threatening its leaders. The next day, the humans were summoned to a council meeting in the largest chamber of the palace. High-ranking advisors, generals, and ministers filled the room, their expressions a mixture of curiosity, skepticism, and subtle suspicion. Queen Zerelia sat at the head of the chamber, her presence commanding attention. Captain Elias, she said, addressing him first. You have proven your worth in intelligence and ethics. Yet the council remains concerned. They fear that your species could disrupt the delicate balance of this empire. It is time for you to demonstrate diplomacy, not just ingenuity. Elias nodded. Your Majesty, we do not seek disruption. We seek collaboration and solutions that benefit everyone. That is how humans contribute to progress, through cooperation, not control. The council murmured among themselves. One advisor, tall and angular, spoke sharply. You have shown skill in solving technical problems, human. But how can we trust that your species respects our customs and authority? Influence without loyalty is dangerous. Elias stepped forward calmly. I understand your concern. Humans value respect for rules, traditions, and freedom. Our solutions are not meant to replace your leadership, but to strengthen it. True partnership comes when each side contributes its best while honoring the other. Queen Zerelia observed silently. Elias knew she had allowed this confrontation to test not only him, but her advisor's reactions. It was an opportunity to show that humans could maintain integrity, even in high-pressure situations. Another council member, older and more cautious, spoke next. Your proposal for the energy network was effective. Yet humans do not have authority here. What guarantees do we have that your influence will not grow beyond acceptable limits? Elias met her gaze steadily. Influence comes from action and example, not ownership. We will earn trust through our deeds, not by demanding authority. If the empire adopts solutions that strengthen its people and systems, humans do not gain control. Only partnership and mutual respect. The council fell silent. It was unusual for outsiders to speak so confidently, and even more unusual for them to balance assertiveness with respect. Queen Zerelia nodded slightly. Captain Elias, she said, her voice strong, you propose a treaty, an understanding that allows humans to contribute without threatening our traditions or hierarchy. Is that correct? Elias bowed slightly. Yes, Your Majesty. We wish to formalize cooperation. We can provide guidance, intelligence, and technical solutions to challenges your empire faces. In return, we ask only for trust, communication, and respect for our principles. The Queen looked around the chamber at her council. She saw surprise, admiration, and hesitation. Then she turned back to Elias. And the citizens? She asked. How will humans ensure that your contributions respect their freedom? Elias smiled. By designing systems that empower them, not control them. Every solution we propose allows the people to make choices, to manage their own sectors, and to retain authority over their lives. Respect for freedom is as important as solving the problem itself. The Queen's expression softened. She gestured toward the council. Let this be a demonstration of what humans offer. They bring intelligence, courage, and respect, not dominance. If the empire can see their contributions in action, fear will be replaced by understanding. The council members nodded slowly. Some began to speak in favor of the humans' approach, recognizing that collaboration with outsiders could strengthen the empire without threatening its structure. Others remained cautious, but even skepticism had shifted to curiosity. Elias and his crew were then escorted to the central chambers of Andarix Prime. Here, they met leaders of several sectors who managed local governance, resources, and energy. These leaders were skilled and proud, yet wary of outsiders. "Humans," one sector leader said cautiously, "we have heard of your solutions. Yet how can we trust your methods when you are not part of our empire?" Elias smiled. "We do not seek to replace you. We only wish to provide ideas and guidance. You retain control. Our role is to help you strengthen systems, prevent problems, and ensure stability. You remain the decision makers." Over the following days, the humans worked closely with sector leaders, demonstrating new methods for energy management, communication systems, and logistics. They applied predictive algorithms, adaptive controls, and cooperative planning, always explaining the reasoning behind their choices and ensuring the locals could continue independently. Gradually, the Andarixian leaders began to see the value in human methods. Problems that had seemed unsolvable were now manageable, and citizens reported greater efficiency and fewer disruptions in their daily lives. Queen Zoralia observed these interactions carefully. She realized that the humans had not only solved technical problems, but had also changed the perception of outsiders in her empire. They were not conquerors or manipulators. They were collaborators, guides, and moral examples. Finally, she called another council meeting. "Captain Elias," she said, "you have demonstrated that humans can contribute without dominating, that they respect freedom while offering solutions. I propose a treaty. Humans will be advisors, collaborators, and partners to my empire. They will help where needed, but they will never interfere with governance without consent. Do you accept this understanding?" Elias bowed. "We accept, Your Majesty. Humans will honor the trust you place in us. We will act with integrity, respect, and wisdom." The Queen smiled. "Then let it be recorded. The humans of Earth are partners to the Andarixian Empire. They have shown courage, intelligence, and moral clarity. May this alliance bring strength and stability to all." Mira whispered to Elias as they left the chamber. "Captain, that was incredible. We've done more than negotiate a treaty. We've set a standard for how humans interact with other species." Elias nodded. "Yes, Mira. We've shown that influence comes not from fear or power, but from intelligence, ethics, and cooperation. That is the human way." Across the empire, word of the human success spread quickly. Citizens, advisors, and even rival factions began to view them with respect. The humans' reputation grew, not as conquerors, but as examples of courage, wisdom, and principled action. Queen Zoralia watched from her throne, thoughtful and pleased. The humans had proven themselves in ways she had not expected. They had refused temptation, solved problems creatively, and negotiated partnerships with integrity. Perhaps the galaxy had underestimated humanity all along. Elias and his crew returned to their quarters, exhausted but proud. They had not only passed tests and challenges, they had shifted the balance of perception across an entire empire. Mira looked at Elias, smiling. "Captain, I think we've done it. We've earned respect not just from the Queen but from the entire empire." Elias nodded slowly. "Yes, Mira, and that is far more valuable than power, wealth, or gifts. The respect and trust of others is something that lasts, something that builds alliances and friendships. That is true influence." Outside, the twin sons of Andarix Prime shone brilliantly. The humans had proven that their species could thrive not through domination, but through courage, intelligence, and moral clarity. The Andarixian Empire had begun to change its perspective, and the humans had carved a place of trust and respect within its heart. And yet, Elias knew that the galaxy was vast and greater challenges awaited. But for now, humanity had shown that they could face an empire, earn its respect, and remain true to their principles, all without compromise. This was not just a victory for the humans aboard the Endeavor. It was a statement to the entire galaxy. Humans were capable of inspiring change, solving problems, and leading with integrity. That was the power that no empire, no weapon, and no temptation could ever take away. And in that knowledge, Elias felt a quiet pride. Humanity had not only survived in the galaxy, they had set an example, a standard of courage, intelligence, and moral clarity that others could follow. For the Andarixian Empire, this was only the beginning of a new era. And for humanity, it was the start of a reputation that would echo across stars and systems, not as conquerors, but as a species to be respected, admired, and trusted. The halls of the Andarixian palace were calm that morning, yet beneath the serene surface change had begun. Captain Elias Thorne and his crew were preparing to depart Andarix Prime, their mission nearly complete. For weeks they had worked alongside the Empire's leaders, solved problems and earned respect not through force, nor wealth nor gifts, but through courage, intelligence, and moral clarity. Elias walked with Mira and Jalen, reviewing the accomplishment,